We're going to tie a anatomical Baetis. This pattern originated from Skip Morris, and he developed it to fool really smart fish. We begin with a Tiemco 3769 in a size 16 with a black 1/16 inch tungsten bead. Thread we're using is brown uni in 8/0. Tie it in behind the bead and bring the thread all the way back to the bend of the hook. I'm going to take 3 pheasant tail fibers, even them up and tie them in at that bend. Now I'm unspinning my thread so it's a little flatter, not so tightly wound. You have a tendency to cut off. I could cut that pheasant tail easily with that thin thread. Now I like to leave the tails probably almost shank length, so anywhere from 3/4 to the length of the shank of the hook. I've got a piece of gold wire in small. It's going to be my ribbing. And I have a piece of brown scudback. And it's going to be the top of my fly as well as the wing case. And I'm tying all of those in right at that tie-in point near the bend of the hook. The biggest trick here is just to get the scudback not to roll over. So you start by bringing it over on this side, and as you pull your thread over to the other side, it'll pull it into position. I'm tying back my scudback and everything else, and I'm going to bring my thread up to into the thorax area. Just a single web finish to keep the thread up to the thing so it doesn't unravel as I'm trying to wrap in the pheasant tail. Now I'm going to wrap my pheasant tail to the front in touching turns. You can tell I got Vienna sausages for fingers. Sometimes it gets a little tough to maneuver. This is where I should have used the rotary function of my vise. Now I trap those 3 peacock stems to the front. Trim off my excess pheasant. Now pull over that scud back, making sure that it stays on top of the fly. I like what it does because it leaves the profile it's given is fuzzy underneath and slick on top. I'm taking my wire and I'm going to palmer it up to the front in about 3 or 4 turns. And tie off my wire and break off the excess. Now I'm going to take a bit of dark olive dubbing, It's actually rabbit hair. Make me a little dubbing noodle. I've got a touch of wax on that thread just to help me out. Make sure you spin all in the same direction to put that dubbing onto that thread. Now I got it on a little thick. I usually like it half this, but this will work. Make sure you twist in the same direction every time though. Now I'll wrap that thorax area. Now I've got some partridge dyed burnt orange. I'm going to clean up the feather a little bit and create a little space in there and tie in at that space. And these are going to be my legs. Now I wouldn't recommend going out and buying a partridge just in burnt orange just so you can tie this fly, but I would take a natural partridge skin and just mark it with a marker. This happens to be, that's what I did in this case, and it's just cadmium orange is what I'm using. Or you could use a sienna. But you could have all myriads of colors of partridge just by using a marker. Now I've cut that little notch, that V-notch in the feather, and that's going to help make sure I got legs, equal amount of legs on both sides. I've tied in that partridge right behind the bead, and I'm pulling that scud back over the top and make 2 loose wraps. And then I'm going to pull on the stem of the partridge and adjust the length of those legs. And I want those partridge legs to go out, 1.5 times past the thorax area or wing case area. And get a clean cut using these nippers. You'll notice that they're convex. They point outward instead of being concave like most nail clippers are. And just get them at any drugstore. Now, am I going to whip finish? Now, I was taught a long time ago, if I do 6 whip finishes, I don't need to put any head cement or anything on there at all. And most of the time, I like to do 3 and then another 3. I trim off some of the excess. Like everyone else, I have a tendency to crowd the eye at times. But here I'm okay, and I'm just dressing that fly and cutting away some of that excess material. Pick out a little bit of more of the rabbit fur. And that's my Anatomical Baetis. Thank you.